One quiet street, one bad decision, and one man you never point a gun at. It was just past 7 p.m. The suburban neighborhood was calm, the kind of silence that comes right before dinner time. Street lights flickered on, families gathered inside their homes, and the air felt still. But not everyone enjoyed that peace. Robert Miller did not. A middle-aged man with a cheap flashlight strapped to his belt and a pistol on his hip, Robert saw himself as the protector of the community. Officially, he was just a volunteer for the HOA, but in his head, he was a cop. He loved the authority. He loved the power trip. And tonight, he was looking for trouble. Then a black SUV rolled slowly into the street. The engine purred smoothly, headlights casting a wide beam. The driver parked near a duplex and stepped out. He was tall, athletic, calm. His casual clothes couldn't hide the sharpness in his posture, the quiet confidence in his eyes. His name was Darius Cole. Darius wasn't some stranger. He had grown up here. Tonight, he was home on leave, finally back from overseas. A special forces operator, years of missions in Afghanistan, Iraq, and places the government never admitted. He was just here to see his mother, to breathe home air, to finally relax. He pulled his bag from the trunk, smiled faintly to himself, and headed toward the door. Robert spotted him from across the street. In Robert's mind, everything about Darius screamed suspicious. The SUV, the time of night, the confident stride. Who is this guy? Outsider? Gang member? Criminal? Robert didn't hesitate. He marched forward, flashlight already in hand, chest puffed out like he owned the block. Hey! Stop right there! His voice boomed down the street. Darius set his bag down and turned, a calm look on his face. Excuse me, he asked, his tone neutral. Robert clicked the flashlight on, blinding him in the face. What are you doing here? You live in this neighborhood. Darius exhaled slowly. He knew the type. Guys like Robert never stopped to listen. I'm visiting my mother. That's her apartment, number 23. Robert didn't buy it. His ego needed this confrontation. Let me see some ID. Now. You look suspicious to me. Darius tilted his head slightly, irritation showing, but his voice steady. Listen, man, I just got home. I'm not about to hand over my ID to some stranger with a flashlight. Who even are you? That did it. Robert's face tightened. To him, this wasn't just a conversation anymore. It was a challenge. He drew his pistol. The neighborhood froze. Curtains twitched. Someone whispered, "Oh my God," before pulling out a phone and dialing 911. Robert barked, voice shaking with fake authority. Hands up! Put your hands where I can see them. You don't belong here. You're dangerous. Darius raised his hands slowly to shoulder level, calm, controlled. His soldier instincts kicked in immediately. This wasn't just some wannabe neighbor anymore. This was a live threat. His eyes scanned everything. Robert's stance, his grip on the weapon, the poor trigger discipline. One glance told him this man had no idea how to handle a firearm. Darius spoke with a low, steady voice, the kind that could calm chaos or cut through it like a blade. Lower the gun. You don't know what you're doing. You're about to make a mistake you'll regret for the rest of your life. Robert's knuckles whitened on the grip. Shut up. I said hands up. I'm with the HOA security. I keep this neighborhood safe. Darius almost laughed, his mouth curled into a faint, sarcastic smile. HOA security? You're waving around a gun like you're some kind of cop. But you're not. You're just a man with a badge that doesn't mean a damn thing. From a nearby balcony, a neighbor shouted, Robert, stop. You know you're not law enforcement. Put the gun down before the cops get here. Robert ignored it, eyes locked on Darius, ego boiling. Meanwhile, Darius shifted his stance slightly, angling his body. His bag was just a step away. Inside it, concealed under clothes, was his own sidearm. But he didn't reach for it, not yet. Instead, he kept his voice level, almost clinical. I'm Special Forces. You pull that trigger, and I promise you, you won't be walking away tonight. But if you put the gun down, you still have a chance to go home. That sentence hit Robert harder than he expected. His confidence cracked. His hands trembled. The gun wavered. You're lying, Robert muttered, though it sounded more like he was trying to convince himself. Darius didn't blink. His gaze never left Robert's eyes. You want to test me? Pull it. But understand this. When the police show up, I'll be the one alive. You'll just be another fool who thought a flashlight and a pistol made him powerful. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance, growing louder. The neighbors whispered from behind curtains, phones still recording, the entire street holding its breath. Darius slowly lowered his hands, every move deliberate. "You have one last chance," he said quietly. "Put it away, or watch your life collapse in the next 5 minutes." Robert's grip faltered. His face was red, sweat running down his temple. His brain screamed at him to hold his ground, but his body knew he was already outmatched. And then the sound of approaching squad cars filled the night. The showdown wasn't over. It was about to escalate. Sirens grew louder, but the real war hadn't started yet. Red and blue lights painted the street in flashing strokes. Tires screeched as two squad cars turned the corner, stopping just feet away from Robert and Darius. Robert's hand still shook on the trigger. The neighborhood was alive now. Doors cracked open, cameras recording, whispers spreading like wildfire. Darius stood tall, hands loose at his sides, eyes never leaving Robert. The squad car doors opened. Two officers stepped out, weapons drawn, voices sharp. "Drop the gun! Drop it now!" For a split second, Robert froze. He wasn't expecting backup to arrive so quickly. His mind raced. If I drop it, I lose. If I hold it, maybe they'll believe me. He barked back at the officers. "It's fine. I've got this under control. I'm HOA security. He's dangerous." The officers didn't budge. Guns trained on Robert. One of them shouted again, "Sir, drop the weapon, now." Darius, still calm, raised his voice just enough. "Officers, my name is Sergeant Darius Cole, U.S. Army Special Forces. This man pulled a weapon on me without cause." The words cut through the night. Murmurs spread among the neighbors. The name carried weight. One officer's eyes widened slightly. He recognized the tone, the discipline. He lowered his weapon an inch, not at Darius, but squarely at Robert. "Sir," the officer commanded again, "put the gun down before you get yourself killed." Robert's world cracked. His confidence, already shaking, collapsed under the weight of the flashing lights and drawn guns. His pistol dipped lower, just an inch, but his pride screamed at him not to let go. Darius took a slow step forward. Controlled. Calculated. "Listen to me, Robert. You're not in charge here. You never were. You wanted to feel powerful? Well, now, the entire street sees the truth. You're a fraud waving around a gun you can't handle." Robert's lip quivered. His eyes darted between the officers, the neighbors, and Darius. The gun trembled harder, and then a slip. His finger jerked against the trigger. Bang! The shot cracked through the night. A streetlight shattered, sparks raining down, gasps erupted from every window and doorway. Within half a second, both officers screamed, "Gun, gun, gun!" But Darius was already moving. Years of combat training exploded in motion. He lunged sideways, grabbing Robert's wrist with a vice-like grip, twisting it down hard. Robert cried out, the gun clattering to the pavement. In the same motion, Darius kicked the pistol across the street, far from reach. Then he shoved Robert against a parked car, pinning his arm behind his back in a lock so clean, so precise, the officers froze mid-step. Robert screamed, struggling, face pressed against cold metal. "You're assaulting me! He's attacking me! Arrest him!" Darius leaned down, voice low and dangerous in his ear. "You just fired a round in a residential street. You could have killed someone. You don't deserve to carry a weapon." The officers rushed forward, cuffing Robert as Darius finally stepped back. Robert continued yelling, trying to twist the story, but no one was buying it. Neighbors shouted from balconies, "We saw everything. He pulled the gun first. He's been pretending to be a cop for months." One officer pulled Robert to his feet, shoving him toward the squad car. "You're under arrest for reckless endangerment, brandishing a firearm, and impersonating an officer." Robert's eyes were wild, desperate. "He's lying. You don't know who he is. He's dangerous. He's the criminal." The officer shook his head. "Save it. Half the neighborhood just witnessed you nearly shoot an unarmed man." Darius stood quietly, breathing steady, scanning the scene the way only a soldier does, checking for threats, making sure the danger was truly over. Finally, one officer approached him. "Sir, did you say you're Special Forces?" Darius gave a single nod. "Yes. Sergeant Darius Cole, U.S. Army. I'm home on leave." The officer's posture shifted. Respect replaced suspicion. "Do you want to file charges?" Darius glanced at Robert, who was now red-faced in the back of the squad car, shouting incoherent protests that nobody believed. For a long moment, Darius said nothing. His silence spoke louder than Robert's screams. Then finally, "Make sure he never points a gun at anyone again. That's all that matters." The officer nodded. "We'll take it from here." The flashing lights began to fade as they loaded Robert into the car. The neighborhood murmurs quieted. People retreating back inside, phones buzzing with texts and calls about what they had just witnessed. Darius picked up his bag from the sidewalk, brushing the dust from it. His calm was back, though his eyes carried the weight of what almost happened. As he turned toward his mother's door, a neighbor called softly from across the yard, "Hey, thank you for keeping us safe tonight." Darius paused, gave a faint nod, and walked inside. But deep down, he knew. This wasn't over. Robert wasn't the kind of man to let humiliation die quietly, and Darius, soldier or not, had just become his obsession. Some men learn from failure, others let it consume them. Robert was the second kind. 3 nights passed. The neighborhood was quiet again, at least on the surface. People mowed lawns, kids played in driveways, and the memory of flashing police lights began to fade. But not for Robert. Sitting in his cluttered garage, he replayed it over and over in his head. The sirens, the neighbors staring, the soldier pinning him like he was nothing. He could still hear the words, "You're a fraud." Humiliation burned deeper than any jail cell. After posting bail, Robert had one thought, one obsession: payback. He cleaned his gun, loaded fresh rounds, and stared at himself in a cracked mirror. His eyes were bloodshot, his jaw tight. "No one makes a fool of me," he muttered. Not him. Not anyone. Meanwhile, inside apartment 23, Darius tried to enjoy the normalcy he'd been craving. Dinner with his mother, late-night talks about family, even walking through the same streets he grew up in. But soldiers never truly relax. Instincts don't fade. Darius noticed the stairs, the way Robert's friends drove slower past the apartment, the silence that felt too heavy at night. His gut told him something was coming. That night, just after 11 p.m., he stepped outside for air. The street was dim, only a few porch lights flickering. He heard it first, a car engine idling too long, headlights off. Then, movement. Robert stepped out of the shadows, gun in hand. This time, his face wasn't arrogant. It was desperate, twisted, reckless. "You ruined me," Robert hissed. "Made me look weak in front of everyone. You think you're better than me, just because you've got a uniform?" Darius stood still, his posture calm but every muscle coiled, ready. "You brought this on yourself. Walk away before you cross a line you can't come back from." Robert shook his head violently, gun trembling in his grip. "No. Tonight I take control. Tonight I show them who I really am." Darius stepped forward, voice low, steady. "You don't want this fight. You're not prepared for what happens when men like me are forced to act. Put the gun down, Robert. Go home." But Robert wasn't listening. His pride, his obsession, had already drowned reason. He raised the weapon higher, finger twitching on the trigger, and then a scream. From the window, Darius's mother shouted, "Darius, get inside!" That single moment of distraction was enough. Robert fired. The bullet ripped through the night, shattering glass as it tore into the wall just feet from where Darius's mother stood. Time stopped. Darius's soldier instincts exploded. He dove low, rolling across the grass, closing distance in a blur. Robert fired again, missed. The shot echoed down the street, dogs barking, lights flicking on in houses. Darius surged upward, knocking Robert's arm high just as he pulled the trigger again. The round fired into the sky, harmless. Then came the strike. Darius's elbow slammed into Robert's jaw with precision, dropping him to the ground. The gun skittered across the pavement. But Robert wasn't done. He clawed forward, scrambling for the weapon. "You're dead. Do you hear me? You're..." Darius stomped down, pinning Robert's hand before it touched steel. In one swift motion, he kicked the gun far into the gutter. Then he crouched low, his voice a growl inches from Robert's ear. "This ends now." Robert thrashed, spit flying, but he was no match. Darius held him pinned with one arm while pulling out his phone with the other. 911. Shots fired. Suspect in custody. Send units now. Within minutes, the sirens came again. Faster this time. Neighbors spilled into the street, whispering, filming. They'd seen everything. Robert firing into a home, nearly killing someone. The officers arrived, guns drawn. But the moment they saw who held Robert down, they holstered. One officer cuffed Robert as Darius stepped back, breathing controlled but heavy. "Attempted murder," the officer muttered, shaking his head. "You're finished, Miller." Robert's face was pale, eyes darting desperately as they dragged him up. "He's the criminal. He's dangerous. You don't know what he's capable of." But no one listened. The evidence was clear. The neighborhood against him. His words were nothing but the ramblings of a broken man. As they shoved him into the back of the squad car for the second and final time, Robert locked eyes with Darius through the window. Hatred burned there, but also fear. Darius stood silent, shoulders squared, watching as the car disappeared down the street. The night finally grew quiet again. His mother stepped outside, shaken but safe. "You're all right?" she asked, voice trembling. Darius nodded, pulling her into a gentle hug. "It's over now. He won't hurt anyone again." For the first time since he'd come home, Darius allowed himself to exhale. The battle was done. But deep down, he knew the truth every soldier learns. Peace is fragile. Danger always waits in the shadows. And sometimes the real fight isn't overseas. It's right here, in your own backyard.